Long before the headlines, long before the whispers of scandal-filled social media, there was a connection that no one saw coming. It didn't begin with a kiss, or even a confession, it began with silence. A silence that spoke louder than words, between two people who were never supposed to cross paths the way they did. Sara and CanYaman had known each other for years, but always from a safe distance. She was part of the industry's quieter side, the woman behind several high-profile projects, respected but reserved, always in control. He was the opposite, bold, unpredictable, magnetic. When their worlds collided again, neither of them realized that everything was about to change. It was a film set in Italy, a project that brought together actors, producers, and creators from across Europe. Sara had been hired as a creative consultant, calm, analytical, professional. Ken arrived days later, with the same charisma that made people turn their heads wherever he went. The first time she saw him walk into the room, she felt something strange, a shiver she quickly dismissed as fatigue. She wasn't looking for anything. Neither was he, or so he thought. Their first conversations were about work, scripts, character arcs, visual tones. But beneath every sentence, something deeper was forming. Sara noticed how Ken listened when she spoke, how his eyes softened when she disagreed with him. He noticed how she carried herself. Confident yet vulnerable, the kind of woman who didn't need attention, but somehow drew it effortlessly. Everyone on set saw their chemistry. Some whispered about it, others ignored it. But no one knew what was really happening behind closed doors. One evening, after a long day of shooting, Sara was reviewing some footage alone in the editing room. The lights were dim, the air quiet except for the hum of the computer. Ken entered silently, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You work too much," he said softly, placing one beside her. She looked up, surprised but not startled. "And you don't work enough," she teased. He laughed, but there was tension in the air, not awkward, but electric. "Do you ever get tired of pretending?" he asked suddenly. She frowned. "Pretending what?" "That everything's fine," he said. "That fame doesn't eat you alive, that people understand who you are." Sara hesitated, her defenses faltering. "You talk like someone who's already broken," she whispered. He smiled, but his eyes betrayed him. "Maybe I am." That was the moment. The first crack in the wall. It wasn't love yet, it was something far more dangerous. Recognition. 2 souls that saw the same emptiness in each other. From that night on, something unspoken began to grow. They started having late-night conversations after everyone else had left, walking through the quiet streets of Rome, talking about everything but the world they belonged to. But secrets have a way of leaving traces. The crew noticed the stolen glances, the quiet smiles, the way they always seemed to disappear at the same time. Rumors started, small and harmless at first. Still, both of them knew what they were doing, playing with fire in a world where even whispers could destroy careers. Yet neither could stop. Because for the first time in a long time, both of them felt seen, truly seen. And while the world was still blind to what was happening, the secret had already begun to write itself into their lives, a secret that would one day explode into the open, changing everything. Weeks passed, but the secret between them grew heavier with every passing day. They kept up the act on set, polite, distant, professional, but beneath that surface, emotions were shifting like tides. The world saw them as colleagues, maybe even friends, but the truth was far from simple. Sara had started to notice things she shouldn't, how her heartbeat changed when he entered the room, how his eyes found hers even in crowded spaces. And Ken? He had stopped pretending entirely. He lived for those quiet moments when no one was watching, the brief seconds when their worlds aligned and nothing else mattered. One Friday evening, after another long day of filming, the cast and crew gathered for a casual dinner. Laughter, wine, music, everything felt light, normal. But for Sara and Ken, every smile was a performance. He sat across from her, watching her talk, laugh, and hide behind her calm facade. When their eyes met, she quickly looked away. He smiled. He knew her better than she wanted him to. Later that night, as the group said their goodbyes, Sara stayed behind to collect her things. The hotel lobby was nearly empty when she felt someone approach. "You forgot your scarf," Ken said, holding it out. She reached for it, their hands brushing for a moment, a small touch, but one that carried the weight of everything they'd been suppressing. "Thank you," she said softly. He didn't move. "You're shaking," he whispered. "It's cold," she replied quickly, avoiding his eyes. He stepped closer. "No, it's not." That single moment stretched into eternity. The tension, the silence, the unspoken truth between them, it all reached a breaking point. "Ken," she whispered, her voice trembling, "this can't happen." "Then tell me to leave," he said, his voice low, steady, and full of something she had tried to ignore for too long. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because even as fear and reason screamed inside her, her heart betrayed her. She looked up, their eyes locked, and in that instant, every wall between them collapsed. He stepped closer, his hand gently brushing her hair aside, and for the first time, she didn't resist. That night didn't end with promises or confessions. It ended in silence, the kind of silence that only exists after something irreversible has happened. The next morning, the sun rose over Rome as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Sara avoided him the entire day. On set, she kept her distance, focusing on her work with forced intensity. Ken, on the other hand, acted as though nothing was wrong, charming, professional, completely in control. But every glance, every near encounter, burned with the memory of what they had done. A few of their colleagues began to sense something. "You and Ken seem close lately," one of them remarked casually. Sara forced a laugh. "We work well together, that's all." But deep down, she knew she was living on borrowed time. Secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, have a way of slipping through cracks. Late that night, her phone buzzed. "Ken asterisk, we need to talk." Sara asterisk, "There's nothing to say." Ken asterisk, "Then why can't we stop thinking about it?" She stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Sara asterisk, "Because we crossed a line." Ken asterisk, "Then let's decide if we regret it." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. But she couldn't bring herself to respond. Because the truth was, she didn't regret it. Not even a little. That night, as she lay awake, she realized she had lost control of something far greater than a mistake. It wasn't just attraction anymore, it was something that consumed her thoughts, her peace, her every heartbeat. And outside, in the quiet of the city, Ken stood by his hotel window, staring into the night, knowing one thing for certain, whatever this was, it was far from over. The following weeks felt like living in a dream that was constantly on the edge of becoming a nightmare. Every day on set was a dance, glances that lingered too long, conversations that sounded innocent but weren't. They had learned to speak without words, to communicate in silence. And while everyone around them saw just another professional partnership, those who paid close attention began to notice something strange. The energy between them had shifted. It was no longer subtle. It was magnetic, dangerous, impossible to ignore. Sara tried to pull away. She told herself over and over that this wasn't real, that it was just a moment of weakness between two people caught in the illusion of long nights and emotional scripts. But deep down, she knew the truth. This wasn't part of any film. This was her life, and it was spiraling out of control. Ken, on the other hand, didn't even try to deny it anymore. He'd wake up thinking about her, go through his day hearing her voice, and fall asleep wondering how long they could keep pretending. To the world, he was still the confident actor, bold, charming, untouchable. But behind closed doors, he was just a man who had fallen for someone he was never meant to love. One evening, after filming wrapped early, they found themselves alone again. The rest of the crew had gone out to celebrate, but Sara stayed behind, pretending to be busy with notes. When Ken walked in, she didn't even look up. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. "I've been telling myself that for weeks," he replied. "And yet, here I am." She sighed, finally turning toward him. This can't go on. Then tell me to stop, he said softly. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Because she couldn't. He stepped closer, and this time, she didn't move away. There was no need for explanations. They both knew what this was. When he reached for her hand, it felt like gravity itself had given up trying to keep them apart. That night, their secret became something real, fragile but unstoppable. From that moment, every meeting, every text, every look carried a hidden meaning. They began meeting away from the city, in quiet places no one would think to look. Abandoned gardens, small cafes, hidden corners of Rome where they could just be without fear. It was love born in the shadows, beautiful and doomed at the same time. But secrets, no matter how carefully kept, always have a way of slipping into the light. And theirs was no different. One night, after leaving a quiet restaurant in Trastevere, they thought no one had seen them. They were wrong. A photographer waiting for another celebrity noticed Can and took a few quick pictures, nothing incriminating, just two people walking closely under an umbrella. But the intimacy was undeniable. The angle, the body language, it told a story without needing words. A week later, those photos appeared online. The headline was simple but devastating. Asterisk, who was the mysterious woman often seen with CanYaman in Rome? Asterisk, Sara saw it first. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the article. No names yet. No proof. But the comments section was already wild with speculation. She called Can immediately. We've been seen, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know, he said. My team already told me. So what do we do now? There was silence on the line before he answered. We stopped pretending. But stopping the act meant admitting the truth. And admitting the truth meant risking everything. As she sat in her apartment that night, the city lights flickering through her window, Sara realized that the secret that once felt like a hidden paradise was now turning into a cage. The more she tried to keep it private, the more it threatened to destroy the lives built around it. And as the world began to whisper louder, both of them knew, the clock was ticking. By the next week, the whispers had turned into full-blown chaos. The photos had gone viral, and everyone wanted to know who the mysterious woman beside CanYaman was. Some thought she was just another actress, others claimed she was an old flame. But when a tabloid managed to dig deeper and finally printed her name, Sara Bluma, the story exploded. The internet caught fire. The producer behind Can's latest project caught in a secret affair, screamed the headlines. TV channels ran endless debates, dissecting every gesture, every glance they'd ever shared in public. Sara watched the world tear her apart from her living room couch. Her phone didn't stop buzzing, calls from reporters, colleagues, even relatives she hadn't spoken to in years. Her social media flooded with judgment, insults, and pity. Overnight, she went from respected producer to the other woman in a scandal she never intended to create. Meanwhile, Can was facing his own storm. His management team demanded an immediate denial. You have to protect your image, they said. You're a global name now. You can't afford this. But he refused. Protect my image, he repeated, voice trembling with frustration. What about protecting her? That silence in the room was heavier than any word. Everyone knew, this wasn't just another rumor. This was real. Sara, meanwhile, had locked herself in her apartment. The man she had once trusted to help her through anything, her mentor, the producer of the project, had already replaced her name on internal memos. We can't have this kind of distraction on set, he had told her coldly. In less than 24 hours, her professional world had collapsed. Can tried to reach her dozens of times, but she didn't answer. Finally, late one night, she called him. Her voice was soft but steady. It's over, Can, she said. No, he replied firmly. You don't get to decide that alone. You don't understand, she whispered, her breath shaking. They've destroyed my career. I can't even step outside without being followed. You can handle this kind of pressure, I can't. You think I care about any of that? He asked, his voice breaking. They can take everything from me, Sara. My reputation, my roles, my career. But they can't take you unless you let them. She didn't answer. Instead, she cried quietly on the phone, not because of guilt, but because of love. The kind of love that had no place in their world. Days later, the production officially paused. Unforeseen personal circumstances, the statement read. But everyone knew the truth. Behind the closed doors of show business, people whispered, judged, and speculated. He's reckless. She's manipulative. It was bound to happen. But no one knew how deeply it hurt. No one knew that Sara hadn't slept for days, or that Ken sat alone every night staring at the phone, waiting for a message that wouldn't come. And then, just when everything seemed to have gone quiet, a new article dropped, one that changed everything. The headline read, * leaked messages reveal CanYaman's hidden relationship, emotional confessions exposed. * someone from the crew had sold screenshots of their private texts. Words meant only for each other were now plastered across magazines and talk shows. You make it impossible to forget you. You're the only real thing in my life. If this is wrong, I don't ever want to be right. The world had all the proof it needed. The secret was no longer secret, it was scandal, and it was everywhere. That evening, Sara's doorbell rang. When she opened it, Ken stood there, unshaven, exhausted, but determined. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I had to see you, he said. Because if the world's going to burn us alive, I want to at least hold your hand while it does. She broke down, falling into his arms. For the first time in weeks, she stopped running. And as they stood there, the cameras still flashing outside, both of them knew there was no turning back. Whatever happened next, they'd face it together. The next morning, the headlines were merciless. Every magazine, every talk show, every online portal had one story dominating its front page, * CanYaman's forbidden love, the secret that destroyed everything. * It was no longer just gossip, it had become a national obsession. Fans divided into two camps, those defending him, and those calling him a liar. The internet turned savage. Every image, every moment from his past with Sara was twisted into a narrative of betrayal. Ken shut down completely. He ignored interviews, cancelled events, and fired half his management team. You're committing career suicide, his agent shouted, but he didn't care anymore. Fame had always been loud, full of noise, cameras, and expectations. But for the first time, the silence felt even louder. He sat alone in his Rome apartment, the same one where Sara had once laughed, her voice echoing softly in the corners. Now it was just empty space, full of ghosts, full of memories. Sara, meanwhile, had disappeared. No social media, no public appearances, no phone calls. Her family refused to speak to reporters. Even her friends said they didn't know where she'd gone. The industry moved on quickly, but Ken didn't. Every day, he waited. Every day, he checked his messages, hoping for something, anything. A single word would have been enough. Then one night, as he was preparing to fly to Istanbul for a new project, his phone lit up. Unknown number. One message. Sara *, don't hate me for leaving. This world wasn't made for us. You need to keep living, even if I'm no longer there. You were never my mistake, Can. You were my truth. He stared at the screen for a long time, unable to breathe. Then he typed back. Can * you were the only part of my life that felt real. Wherever you are, I'll carry you with me. No reply came. The next morning, tabloids claimed she had moved abroad. Some said she was in Spain, others whispered she had left Europe entirely. But no one ever confirmed where Sara Bluma went. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth, taking their story with her. Weeks turned into months. Ken returned to work, though he was no longer the same man. His performances grew deeper, more vulnerable. Fans noticed something different, a quiet sadness behind his eyes. In every interview, he avoided questions about the past, always smiling faintly and saying, "Some stories aren't meant to be told." But one night, months later, during a rare live appearance, a journalist pushed too far. "Can," she asked, "was it love?" The room went silent. Cameras zoomed in, waiting for his reaction. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he looked up and said softly, "It was the kind of love you spend the rest of your life trying to forget, and never can." Those words echoed across the world. They trended for days, replayed in slow motion on every platform. Fans wrote that they saw tears in his eyes when he said it, though he quickly looked away. Back in the quiet countryside, far from the cameras, a woman watched that clip on her phone. Her hand trembled as she brushed a tear from her cheek. It was Sara. Hidden from the world, living under a different name, but unable to stop watching him. As the clip ended, she whispered, "I never stopped loving you." Then she turned off the screen and walked toward the window, the night sky reflected in her eyes. Somewhere far away, in another city, Ken looked up at that same sky, and for a moment, it felt like they were still connected, even from two different worlds. Time moved on. The world forgot the scandal. New stories replaced old ones. But for those who had lived it, for Ken and Sara, the scars never fully healed. Because some loves don't fade. They just learn to live in silence. And though the world saw it as a forbidden story, they knew the truth: it was never about guilt or sin. It was about two souls who met in the wrong life, but loved as if they'd been waiting for each other forever.